Great day, fam. Welcome to the Community Nonprofit Network Podcast, aka the CNN Podcast. My name is Erica Scott, and I am the Executive Director and founder of LifeChangers, Inc. And with me today is a special guest, an old friend of mine from way back in the day, Michael Saes Halpern, a true Yorker and founder of NYC Bridge Runners.
Hey.
Hey. Mike Saes, how are you?
First of all, I'm not that old. You said I'm an old friend.
Well, hey, these days, if you know somebody more than 5 days, they're an old friend, right?
Yes. But I'm still only 51 years young, and we go back to red and black lumberjacks with the hats and match. Guess what? We go back to breaking. So we go back to
breaking.
Yeah. Yes, popping, pop locking, breaking, and all the above. All the true Yorker stuff. I guess we're lucky to be around at that time and see all the change. We were around before beepers. When beepers became a thing.
Yeah. Wait, Latin Quarter, Rooftop, Union Square. Yeah, let's go there.
Yes. But we survived that. We're alive still, so that's
yes. Oh, wow. Yeah, we won't go there. We won't go. We definitely are not going there. But we are here today because we had a brief conversation. I told you, hold on, because I got to get you on air to talk about all this awesomeness that you're cooking up because I'm in Atlanta since the early 90s. And, but you're still there in New York doing all this good stuff, and I've got to hear about it, and I want our listeners to hear about it right along with me. So now, start from, please, just to I know your backstory, but please just fill our listeners in with where you start. Why do we call you Saes? And then kind of quickly go up to the topic today, please.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm a true Yorker. I was born on the Lower in 1970. So I grew up on the East Side, and then I went to school on the West Side, and that's where we started hanging out in Horatio Street Park and going to I-70 and the Roxy's and all those things downtown. So I was born on the Lower in 1970. So grew up on the East Side, St. Mark's Movie Theater, Tompkins Square Park, Bread and Puppet, all the cool little downtown kind of hippie East Village things. And then I went to the West Side to PS3 and moved over to Jane Street next to the Corner Bistro and got cool hanging out in Horatio Park, Valley Park. And that's, early 80s when graffiti and popping and carrying around big boom boxes kind of was the thing downtown. So luckily I was part of that as a youth, but kind of became a local community organizer just because where I was located on Horatio Street, and we used to walk from there to Washington Square Park and kind of walk around everywhere, all of Manhattan and exploring. So because of like my connections with graffiti and people, started going out to the clubs, a little bit of dancing, not professionally, but just, kind of, that's what we did back in the days. We danced. And I kind of, got connected with a lot of, true Yorkers, other true Yorkers. And, in 2001, I started a project called the New York City Urban Experience down at the Seaport. It was kind of graffiti related and art related. And then in 2003, I started the NYC Bridge Runners, which is the first run crew. And we launched the urban running movement, which is now from Seoul to Soweto, and that's called Bridge the Gap. So what I did in 2003, I started running the bridges, the Manhattan to the Brooklyn, or the Williamsburg to the Manhattan, or all three. I used to run at like midnight, hot summer, so it ran late at night, and some cool people saw me and decided to follow me, and I met a friend of mine, Dan Cherry, who was working at Wyden and Kennedy at the time, and he was like, "Hey, this is something cool. Maybe Nike would want to get involved." And I was already a Nike head, um, so I partnered with Nike in 2004, 2005. Well, in 2004, 2005, we started doing like culture runs where I would take people to an old neighborhood and explain how it used to be, how it used to smell, who was hanging out there, and I would get a guest speaker that would give the history of that neighborhood. So we did the Bronx by Yankee Stadium, and I had Nice and Smooth talk about what the hood was like.
Wow.
We did Patsy's Pizza in El Barrio, and I had Fable from Rocksteady Crew talk about Spanish Harlem. We did the South Street Seaport before it moved to Hunts Point. Had a third generation fishmonger speak about what that was like. So, like good history lessons about New York. And so when I run now, I've been running every Wednesday for 19 years.
Wow.
And it's always an experience. It's really about you learning about the city that you live in, whether you were born and raised here or whether you just got off a boat or a plane. We try to use the bridges to connect, the culture or the cultures and the runners and yeah, it ended up being a global movement called Bridge the Gap. In 2012, about 10 crews met in Berlin and got together to run a Berlin half marathon, but it was from Switzerland and Paris and Amsterdam and Hong Kong, New York, all around the world, Copenhagen, and we all
Wow.
met in Berlin, and that was the first uh, Bridge the Gap, um, which was bringing the runners from different places together, and that created this thing we call Crew Love, which is kind of this crazy energy that we get, when we meet up. So, that was my counterpart in London, Charlie Dart from Run Dem Crew, and one of the cool people that started following me over the bridges, Jess Zappo, and they kind of organized this trip to Berlin with some other crews, and now it's post COVID, we're back. We're just in Toronto together, a few hundred people. A bunch of people came to New York for the marathon, and we were out in Berlin. And really, what it is about like the running world was kind of elitist in many ways. In one way, to run a marathon or a triathlon costs a lot of money, which it shouldn't.
Right.
But you have to raise money for this foundation, and you have to do these races, and kind of, which isn't really cool. Kind of pisses me off. So I want to change that. And it's also elitist because it's just kind of this. The running world was never really cool. It was just jogging or speed, right?
Right.
And where like speed is cool if you have it, flaunt it, but that's not what we're about. We're about the journey. And so, we changed the game, and it's not about the fastest. Um, and it's really about running your city and teaching people like, hey, this is where you should go eat, or this is where you should go drink, or this is where you should go party. And kind of these like guided tours of our city. And if you're part of the BTG movement, Bridge the Gap, then anybody from New York could go to Soweto or to Belgrade or Berlin or any of these places, and they'll have family there just by mentioning they're down with the Bridge Runners. That will show them where to eat, where to party,
Wow.
where what art shows to see. It's kind of like this network of cool people that happen to run. So I'm really proud of that. and I think the reason why it's, it started here, as many things do. Um, I think it's my true Yorker background that makes me want to show off New York and learn about New York.
Right.
A friend of mine a few years ago, my boy John Law, who started a crew or helped launch a crew in Hong Kong, and he called me for advice on like how to do it, because run clubs have been around forever. Running at night has been around forever. Running to drink has been around forever. We just kind of changed it to a run crew, and it was like non-running runners, and it was, really about exploring and experiencing. But he mentioned to me the reason why he thinks our runs are cooler. Like, we don't run through Central Park or any of that stuff. We run the bridges and under the bridges, and whatever, we smell food, we make a left. We see graffiti, we make a right. We kind of use the city as the guide. But he had mentioned to me that he believed the reason why our runs were cool is because I was a graffiti guy, and I see the city like differently. Like, I look up,
Right.
I look across. I don't, I'm not looking down at my feet. I'm always looking what's around me. And I think the trick to running, at least distance, because I run ultras, really. I'm an ultra runner. So that means I run 50 Ks or better. A marathon is 26.2 miles. A 50 K is 31 miles. I've run 50 miles before. I've run 100 miles once. Probably do it again soon. But I run distance, and it's not about speed. It's about, the mission and eating and a little food towards that kind of thing. But because I grew up seeing the city as an artist, I present the city that same way, which is interesting. It's not, when you come running with me on a Wednesday, which I hope all of your listeners do when they come to New York, they'll experience the city in a different way than ever before. And what's cool is it's not only me. I have a co-captain, Cedric, and I have other coaches and everybody who runs with us with the Bridge Runners has the obligation to show somebody something new, something different.
That is awesome, but I have to stop you right there. I have never known you to run. So tell me, when did you take up you said 19 years ago. So that explains it, because I've been gone for longer than that. But what made you, as an adult, want to pick up running? Because it's not like you have a weight. A lot of people start running because they want to work out and lose weight. You've never had a weight issue. So what made you?
Well, I actually did have a weight issue. You weren't around, but in the late 90s, when I became a baller, I was eating a lot of really good food at 3 a.m, and I was 198 pounds, and I was pretty big.
You were how much?
198. I mean, you knew me, I was 155, so.
Yeah.
In the Flacco days, yes. So I went up to 198 because I was making too much money, drinking too much Cristal, and eating fancy food at 4 a.m. And my sister, Elizabeth, got me a colonic for my birthday.
That is so Elizabeth.
Yeah, so she was out in Cali. She's on the health kick. So did the colonic, and then I started doing this thing called the Master Cleanse, which was this lemonade, cayenne pepper, salt, water kind of fast. And I lost some weight with that. And then I went to a gym, Chelsea Piers, and I hooked up with this coach. This is like late 90s. And he was like, look, they're my boy, Ed Lovelace. And he was like, why don't we train on the FDR Drive, instead of in the gym. And, so that was in the late 90s. And I started running on the track. And I guess that was my intro to running. He disappeared for a couple of years. I continued fasting, but and I was running a little bit. I was, I'm an ex-track star from, the train tracks. So okay. I was always, my first run was getting chased by a cop in Horatio Creek Park when I was 11.
I wasn't going to mention it.
So I was with Clint Duncan, and I got chased in the park, 1983 or 82, doing graffiti.
Mhm.
And I stopped running from the cops, and I said to myself, like, I could have outrun him. You know, I need to keep running. So that's my first experience running. Uh, and, uh, and it was really just, running from street, right? Like that was, so, and then I would get new sneakers, and I'm like, hey, you never know. Let me run 6 blocks in these sneakers just in case I get chased or whatever, right? So,
Right. Right.
and then I guess in the early 2000s, because I was a sneakerhead, I was getting all these running shoes, and I was like, if I played basketball and wore these shoes, I'd be balling in them. So if I'm wearing these running shoes, maybe I should start running. And I started running the bridges in 2003. So I had already been running a couple of years before. I lived in Shaolin for a couple of years, and I used to run from the ferry to my crib, which was right on Bay Street by White Castle. So I'd run like a mile at 4 in the morning in my Timberlands, leaving Red Zone in 1992, and so I did that kind of running, and kind of like, I don't know, it's running is the shit because and actually Will Smith said this. I don't normally quote Will Smith, but I do with this one. He said the 2 most important things are running and reading. And reading's obvious, but running, there will always be a voice in your head telling you to stop. And if you could beat that voice in your head, then you could beat anything. So,
Wow.
while running, especially when I was running by myself, I used to be like, I could start right now and nobody would know. I could walk, I could do this, I could do that, but like, why? So that kind of voice in your head pushes you further,
Right.
and especially when you're somebody who's like, I'll never run a marathon, and then you do. So running is really therapeutic. And that's kind of how I'm looking at the future of running is about therapy. It's not about speed, because speed is like, steroids or training for like all this stuff. And it really shouldn't be about that. It should be about, I'm going to lace up, I'm going to connect with some friends, I'm going to learn about New York, and I'm going to do it again next week or this weekend or whatever. And kind of, this is my new crew, these are my people. And, or especially if you just moved to New York, here's this kind of like front seas on how to become like a New Yorker, not a true Yorker, but a New Yorker. Because a true Yorker kind takes more than running the bridges to become a true Yorker. But,
Right. Right.
just a way to learn about your city in a quick way. So it's kind of like we offer this New York tour, but it's really a social thing. It's really about connecting with cool people and learning. So, yeah, we changed what running is or was. We made it more colorful, with a lot of people of color and a lot of Asians and Europeans. Like when we run, like the American white female is the minority, and that's generally normally what the running world looks like. Like people that ran in college or high school, or people. We have a couple of ex athletes, but it's really about people that never ran before. You know what I mean? Or
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, it's really about changing. Like I don't need to be a part of something that already exists. I'm about like changing and making running cool. And again, really about making it a therapy, because I think like I don't run with music, I get my mind right, and maybe I'll talk with some people and push some people to go faster, further, finish strong. Certain rules we have with running. We have our crew commandments, and it's, run your city, never run alone, smile for the camera, finish strong, fast and first, safety second, those kind of things. We try to look cool. And then
Okay.
so I'm always kind of cool. Fashion times function, that kind of thing. But I think overall, what the Bridge Runners have done and what Bridge the Gap has done is made running more accessible and cooler, and really open up the doors for a lot of other people to be connected globally, which I don't, when Bridge the Gap is a movement,
Right.
and I'd say it's called BTG, which I say is bigger than grunge, because our move, like my daughter runs with me, right? And my daughter has friends that are like, hey, I'm going to Harvard and Boston. Do you have any run crews in Boston? Which I have
Awesome.
several,
Awesome.
So it's kind of like wherever you go in the world, most likely there will be a crew that's connected to us, and they're gonna let you know where to get ramen or empanadas or and they'll throw a party for you, like when So it's a cool new thing, and I'm super stoked to be a part of, and that's Bridge the Gap. That's our movement.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, it's awesome, and like I told you on the phone, I know, even though I know you're not a formal nonprofit, but what do nonprofits do? We serve a need, right? We serve a need in the community, and you're serving needs. You don't have to be a nonprofit, a 501c3 or whatever, to serve this need all over the world, not just in a community, but community, by state, by country, by continent. So I know you've been around for a while, a long time now. We're going to get into that in 2 seconds, but I want to just say how awesome this is to me. That I think it's perfect timing at any time of the millennial, the decade, whatever. But right now, post pandemic, like you said, post pandemic, this is like really what I mean. Have you seen what some people are doing on TV while they're locked down, during the pandemic, and these dolls? We're not going there. But this here is a great way, I think, to get out, not be in indoors in a cluster, so we can kind of, just in case people are sick, we're not breathing and coughing all over everybody in enclosed, facilities. But I think it is a way for, pandemic has done what? It has spawned like so many new things. This is to a lot of people who've never heard, I never heard of it. This is a new thing. And I think it's just going to flourish from here. So now with that being said, I want you to talk about the big gatherings that you had for 15, right? 15-year anniversary, and the big one coming up.
Right. Well, one thing I'd say about what's really cool about the Bridge Runners, being the first crew, and now it's really about us bridging runners, is what we kind of train leaders. So people that go through our camp do big things, and kind of the mantra now of the crew. It's like a few years ago, we're like, look, it's not just about having a cool T-shirt
Right.
and running at night, and we made it a rule that you have to connect with the nonprofit, you have to connect with the cause, you have to support things and bring awareness. So whether it's sickle cell awareness from Amsterdam with the Powder Run crew, or there's mental health in
Yes.
London, and working with the youngers in London as well. Just and us, we have I have a nonprofit I've been working on or without the status, called I Can Do Better, which is getting kids out there to do better. And there's every crew has a give back, so that's
Awesome.
really cool. Like training the lady. The thing is because I've been doing it for 19 years, we need to get younger and cooler. So I would
Right.
say a lot of the protests and stuff like that was happening in New York, the George Floyd stuff and all that. We're working with some of the younger people. Our biggest activist, Power Malu, who's part of the movement. He's at the Port Authority every day for the last few weeks, welcoming in the immigrants that are sent here on buses.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Awesome.
So we're very tapped into to what's going on, which is cool. It's not just about like, oh, I'm fast, I'm cool, I got a Nike shirt and these cool sneakers and this and that. It's
Right.
not
Right.
was that in the beginning, but now like it's a lot more, which is cool, because I knew that there's bridges everywhere, and I knew that the bridges connected things and people, but to have it turn out to be this kind of thing that's bigger than all of us is very cool. in 2018, we had our like 15-year anniversary in New York. I had the dates wrong of when we started, which is funny. And I looked at a graffiti picture and I was like, wait a second, that says 2004 in the picture. That means we were running in 2003. Like, oh, we didn't start in 4. We didn't start in
See,
5. So,
you're not representing the 50+ club right now too well.
so we got the dates right, and we did we had a bunch of people come to New York from all around the world. We did our history thing. We did like 7 days in New York. So like we went to Yankee Stadium, we went to Citi Field, we took the Staten Island Ferry. Uh, there's something in every borough every day, and just try to really show what New York is about. And now 5 years later, 2023, we will be doing our big one. 20 years of crew culture.
Wow.
Helped launch, right? Crazy 2 decades of
Yeah, that's a long time to do anything. People don't work a job that long, let alone, and we'll get to that in a minute, but, let alone just a social event like this, because that's basically what it boils down to, a social event turned community event turned give back event turned, and be healthy while you're doing it all. Hey, go for it. So talk to us about what's going on. What's the plan for the big festivity?
Well, depends on when we do it. The problem is, like, I want to do this 100-mile run, but you can't do that in the summer. It's too hot. So we might do something in the spring, but it's also another run crew called We Run Uptown, which is from the Heights, Washington Heights. And it's their 10-year anniversary coming up this year, too. So I kind of want to, if I'm going to invite people from all around the world to come to New York, I kind of want to do both things at the same time, and their anniversaries in the summer. So one of the runs we're going to do is we have what's called a BRHQ, which is our headquarters, Bridge Runner headquarters. And we've had probably about 20 of them in the last 20 years. And we're going to do one run where we stop at each one of those HQs, and whoever did their first run will speak up and give their story about their first run. Because it's always an adventure. Like, your first run with us is always something crazy. Oh, you run 5 miles and we ran 8 miles and we did that. It's always great to hear. So that'll be one of the events. And, we try to, when we do Bridge the Gap, we'll do like some speed events, maybe some relay races. We'll do like an ultra, like a 50K. So I'm sure I'll do like a 50K. The 100-miler, I'll try and, I got to start training for it myself. But we'll probably do that when it's still a little colder, because it's not, it's hard to run 100 miles in the heat. So, but it's really about bringing people down and really, like, because, as the running world is elitist in a way, really because of, finances and kind of just running wasn't cool until we came around. We've been kind of the same way, like, oh, those guys are run nerds and we don't want to run like them or run with them, or like we do our own thing. And I feel like now, after 20 years of doing it, we should provide the world with the kind of plan. Like, it's not about just the cool people anymore. You could be cooler if you're teaching about, like, we're kind of giving this kind of, I call it a crew starter kit. And it's basically a way that you could start your own crew, give you the foundation, give you the reasons, give you a uniform. I want to work with all of the running brands, not just Nike, but Adidas.
Well, I'm glad you're going into that, because I was going to ask, how does somebody get started, like kind of like a franchise under,
Right. Yeah, well, that's kind of our plan for the 20 years. So it's 2 decades of crew culture, and we want to provide a crew starter kit, which means like you and 4 or 5 friends get together 1 day a week and find a bridge or find a bar or something like so like part of one of the crew commandments is run your city, which actually came out of PonCon. And it's really about, like, this is your city, then show us, like, prove it, right? And so one of the crews called the 504th, which is out of New Orleans. You know, people come to us for guidance and like, you know, how to do it right, since we've probably made most of the mistakes already in our 19-year history. So we try to help people and provide the blueprint for crews. And what I told the guys in New Orleans, even though there's probably bridges there, etc., I was like, you have so much rich culture out there, then I suggested that every week they meet somewhere else at a bar. A lot of drinking culture out there. And promote those bars, promote those
Awesome.
establishments. You know that, like, you know, when I went out there last, which was right before COVID, we did a 50K out there, 31-mile run. You know, we met at a bar, and they were like, okay, you know, there's going to be jazz here later on tonight. You know, come back at like 10 o'clock kind of thing, and 11 o'clock. So it's really like that culture is teaching people like, okay, here's the spots. Make sure, you know, you don't overlook this, and you don't, you know, so
Right.
that's for that specific city, right? So for us, we keep it close to the bridges, you know, so we can, you know, that's our elevation. Those are our hills. That's our park. That's our, you know, that's our space. But in other cities, it might not be. So it's really about like, what does your city have to offer? What do you want to show off about your city? What story can your city tell? It's never about Mike Saes, you know, with his this or that. It's really about New York, and, you know, look at, you know, this park under this bridge, and look at this alley, and, you
Not
know,
just the touristy stuff. Not just the
never,
Empire State
never,
Building. Right.
never,
Not just Macy's the Cellar.
never any of that, to tell you the truth. Like maybe like a couple of years ago, we ran up to Rockefeller Tree to see that. You know, like maybe we'll do something like that. But it's really about like the best kept secrets,
Right.
and
Right.
and it's always about the roads less traveled. Like it's under the umbrella of what I call routes and culture, RUTES, and it's really about like, let's learn, you know, or teach, which
Yes.
I'm really proud of mostly, is because, you know, being a true Yorker, you think you know a lot, and then you learn these new things. It's very, very cool. You know, like for example, like we did this run the other day where four of us are 51 years old, so we have the 51 club, and next year it'll be the
Woo,
52 club.
woo. Hey, repping. Yep.
So, so we ran, and it's funny because Africa from the Jungle Brothers, just started running with us, and but
Wow.
I didn't know he's now with the 51 club. He could have joined us for this run, but it was four of us. We did it last year. It was the 50 club, um, and we were running up First Avenue with my boy Bar, OG, True Yorker, and he's like, "Oh, that's the original Jimbo's." And I'm like, you know, and the Jimbos we know from, you know, 145th Street and Chain and all this. And he points that out to me on you know, 50, like, 6th or 7th and First Avenue. Like, yeah, that's been there since, you know, the 50s or 60s, something like. And I'm like, I never noticed this. I run up the street, I biked up the street. You know, you could see by the sign that it's been there forever. And so
Right.
I'm like, oh, wow. And then, you know, we go down 52nd Street and we found a park with a waterfall in it. Like, oh, like, so it's really about like, wow, like this is, you know, because the trick to running is to not know that you're running,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like you're on the treadmill and you're looking at the time and you're looking at the distance.
Yes. Even with a TV on, it doesn't always work.
But but when you're like running through neighborhoods and seeing people watching, and, you know, and vibing, it's totally different. And then you're like,
Right.
you know, I've said like, you know, a lot of people run in the morning to get it over with. We run at night and we never want it to end,
Oh,
because we
wow.
know who's going to show up, like somebody from, you know, Copenhagen or Amsterdam or from wherever. Like it's somebody's bound to, you know, show up with the passport to come run with us. And there's always new people, and then there's first time in a long time. We have this revolving door where, you know, might not see you for a couple of years, and you pop back up, and it's family. So
Awesome.
it's
Awesome.
really cool, and I'm hoping to pass it down to the children and have them keep going. And I really feel like, again, bigger than grunge, which was a trend, very cool, but it ain't about plaid no more. Like us,
Right.
it's really about like culture, roots and culture. It's really about, exploring, and now we're doing trail running to get the fresh air and just different kind of experiences. A lot of people are doing ultras. People just ran 50 miles last week. Like it's,
Wow.
we're real runners, but we're real cool at the same time. So it's kind of different. It's really like a network of the most talented, creative people on the planet that lace up and give tours of their cities. So it's kind of like it's my thing now. I mean, I have several other things that I'm working on, but that's my Wednesday thing, and it's really like when I look at the friends that I have now, like on the regular, they're really from running. Like I have all my old graffiti friends, and my pothead friends, and all all the OGs, but like now it's kind of like these new friends, new family, and it's very
Healthy friends. New healthy friends. There you go.
exactly. Well, on one hand, we say we're a drinking club with a running problem, um, but, but we all have our things. But it
That's
does,
too funny.
yeah. Like I'm doing the CMOS thing and the alkaline water, and I do the intermittent fasting, and I try to like make all those things part of my lifestyle and get other people healthier. Um, so I have like I call it ATA, all the above strategy on things. But I feel like, fitness and especially with the mental, it shouldn't be that difficult and it shouldn't be that expensive. And I'm just trying to make those kind of things easier and joyful. Like it shouldn't be like, oh man, I got to go to the gym. This sucks. It should be like, yo,
Right. Right.
run.
Right.
Where we and who are we hanging out with afterwards? Like, what are we going to learn? So it's kind of like changing, and it's really when it comes to the youth and how I want to make running therapeutic. It's really about like running has always been a punishment. Give me 10 laps, do this,
Right.
do that. Really shouldn't be. It
Yeah.
should be a joy because it is a social thing, and it is, and even though you're with, I could run with 100 people. It's my legs that are moving. You know what I mean? So
Right.
even though it's a group activity, um,
You got to
you
carry your own weight.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's
That's
what's great.
cool.
And then at a certain point, you become selfless. And to me, it's not like I don't remember the last time I did a New York City Marathon. I do the harder thing, which is cheering for 7-8 hours for a marathon. CMOS when they're at mile 21 or some water or, running with them and just trying to, finish strong and kind of like, because running is at least 90% mental. Um,
Right.
so like being there to support our runners, our first timers is really more of what I do than getting my, sub 3:30 marathon. It's more important for me to get, to get people out there and I feel like they know the importance of spreading crew love. Like everybody knows, it's like once I did my marathon, or I got people that are doing sub 3 marathons, and people in Copenhagen doing 2:30 marathons. But even they know that it's really about the community more than this special feat that they train for. It's really about the culture and the new culture of running and bringing people together. So
Yes.
that's my thing.
You just mentioned sub 3. What is that?
A sub 3 marathon is like elite. So that's like doing the marathon in under 3 hours. So that's like, it's possible. It's a lot of training. People do it. Like the big marathon thing was somebody just did a sub 2 marathon. Breaking 2 it was called. So for regular runners, uh, breaking 3 is a super big deal. Elite runners will do like a 2:40 or a 2:34. I generally ran 3:54 sub-4 marathons, which is kind of, that's a goal for, somebody that started running. If they're like, okay, I'm going to do my first marathon, I'm going to try and do sub-4. Most people, their first marathons, they just want to finish, right? Get me to the finish line.
Right.
But if you train, you want to do sub-4. If you train hard, you want to do, a 3:30. And if you're fastest, you want to do sub-3. Which is next level.
Okay, so that does go into the speed that you were saying. We're not about speed.
Well, the thing is, if you have it, flaunt it, right? So it's not, if you can finish your marathon in 3 hours, that gives you time to go back out to the cheer squad and cheer the 5-hour marathoners on, because they're helping. It's
Yeah.
I think speed inspires people, but my co-captain Cedric was like, don't become a run nerd. Don't make it about speed. You're running too fast. And I'm like, look, I want to challenge everybody. If you come to run, I want to make sure everybody's sweating. You know what I mean?
Right.
But some fast people in the back get lost, and then people are scared to run with us because we're running 7-minute miles, and most people run 9-minute miles. So it's hard to balance the speed and the speed and the group, but we tried to, like, I want to start doing 3-mile runs. I generally run 6 miles every Wednesday, but we want to do shorter distance, like 2 miles, 3 miles, just to get people started and get people into it. So I'm trying to, I do, speaking to other captains, we know that we have to adjust and we have to make it running younger and cooler. And how do we do that? And part of that is saying, hey, you're only running 2-3 miles. It's going to take you 20, 30 minutes. It's not your whole night. It's something you could do and finish with the beer. Okay. So just trying to make running more accessible to non-running runners, which has always been the goal. I just like when I was doing the intermittent fasting and the CMOS, I got a lot faster, and people got mad at me because now I'm like, oh, what are you going to start wearing a heart monitor and a watch, which I don't. But I did.
You got an app on your phone.
So they threaten. They call me a run nerd. I am not. But
oh, come on now. 19 years doing this. I mean, you don't just run for, healthy reasons. You've made a whole movement about running. So I maybe just a little bit of nerd in you. Maybe just a little bit.
a little.
Yeah. So what's next after the Big 20? Wow. Props. After the Big 20, what's next for the movement? I mean, you're already worldwide, so now where do you go from here?
Global. We call it all planet. I think really it's about doing our own races, or sometimes I call them races. There's like part parade, part race. And, I want to create our own events. I do these 50K jump-ins, which, you don't have to start from the beginning and you don't have to finish at the end. So like, say you want to run 10 miles, you can meet us in the middle, run 10 miles and leave, jump in, jump out. And I want to, because what happens is towards the end, maybe you only can run 1 mile. You're going to finish with everybody, and the collective energy of the group getting bigger and stronger is the magic. Whereas if, you're running 100 miles, maybe only 10 people are going to finish. But if you include in that 100 miles, a 20-mile option, a 10-mile option, a 5-mile option, and they join you and push you and inspire you and help you, then I think that's the future. And I don't like to wake up at 5 a.m. to show up to a run and wait 2 hours to start running. Like, I prefer my runs at the sunset, with the sunset, not the sunrise. And then finish the run, you dance, shake out the lactic acid, you party, and you go to sleep. A lot of these runs, when they start at 6, 7, 8, 9 a.m., you finish at noon. You don't know what to do. You're kind of stuck. Like, I would go to the bathhouse, go in the cold pool, get my legs right. But not everybody has access to the Russian Turkish bathhouse on 10th Street. Like, so they're like, oh, what am I doing? You know, and I'm like, you know, if we run it in the evening and run with the sunset, then you know what you're going to do. You're going to dance, you're going to chill, and then you're going to go to sleep. So I'm just trying to change the game that way, where I feel like, you know, you have these races with 40,000 people in it. You know, we could have 1,000 people in our race or 10,000 people in our race, and it'll be cooler and, you know, promoting cities and promoting businesses and runways. So it's really about like, how do we, like the same way it's called non-traditional running. So like the Tough Mudders and the Spartan races and all those crazy things where people run through mud and, you know, under fire and all that stuff. That kind of vibe, but I don't want to get my Nikes muddy, right?
I know
So,
you don't. No, no.
so
There's
but
another way to do it.
it's non-traditional running where like, you know, we have music and we have, you know, I had Slick Rick perform at the end of one
Oh,
of
wow.
our race, and you know, like marathon party, we had the Jungle Brothers perform. I've had Greg Nice perform, and it's really about this celebration of accomplishment. I always feel like the best party is celebrating accomplishment. So when I had the Urban Experience Museum in 2001, 2002 at the South Street Seaport, I've had this kind of art thing going on, and I remember like the party for the opening was the best because you had 30 artists that are all there celebrating their work together, and it's like, look what I did, kind of, you know, and that feeling, that energy, that collective energy is the real magic. So you get that same energy from running marathons with the group, like this kind of like, hey, we did it, we made it, you know, we survived, you know, like,
Right, right,
and we'll do it again. Like that's also like, I know, like I remember when Diddy did the marathon and he didn't do it again, I was like, oh, he did it wrong, because if you do it right, you're going to keep running, and you're going
right.
to run, because it is like not it's just a pair of sneakers and some ice cubes or some turmeric or whatever you need, but it's not this whole like, you know, $1,000 gym membership or, you know,
No, no.
$70 an hour trainer or all that stuff. It's like you lace up, you come out, you go as far as you can, you know, you take your time, you come back next week, you get better. So it's really just kind of like affordable.
Like lifestyle.
Yeah, it's complete lifestyle. That's really what's cool about the movement, as this has become our lifestyle. People have gotten married, people have had children, people
Oh,
plan
wow.
their vacation.
I wasn't going there with the lifestyle, but okay, that's awesome.
Oh, complete. Like people choose their where they will travel in the world according to a run crew. You know what I mean?
What?
Like, I want to go to Bali. Okay, here's the run cruise in Bali. You know, I want to go to Russia, or probably not there,
Wow.
like, but wherever you go, there will be somebody, you know, waiting for you to show you that. And I think people like, you know, everybody's going to Tokyo in 14 weeks. There'll be a bunch of people from all around the world out there for the Tokyo Marathon. So that's what's really cool. We actually have people meeting in Hawaii on December 10th. I wish I could go. Bridge the Gap, Honolulu. So there's,
Wow.
you know, everywhere. And look, it might be, you know, 20 people, 30 people, and not the 300 or not the 3,000 that we want. But as long as people from different places are getting together to run together, um, then that's really what Bridge the Gap is. And that's like, I think will go on forever. And that's why I'm
Now,
super.
do you have and I know we're running short on time, but I want to know one thing real quick. Two things. For one, do you have someone like who are you recording this stuff? Or are you live or
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah. It's mostly on Instagram, so at Bridge Runners, but there's other run crews that all have. It's funny because if you add all of the bigger run crews, we're all probably around, you know, between 25 and 30,000 followers between the, you know, main 4 or 5 groups. Mind you, there's dozens and dozens of crews. Most of them are like 6,000 followers, 5,000, something like that. But if you just look at, say, the top 4 being like London, Copenhagen, you know, New York, and I don't know, Amsterdam, whatever, um, only 500 people from the Bridge Runners follow Run Dem Crew in London. And so that makes it 50,000 runners, because we
Wow.
don't all follow. And then you add Copenhagen, which is like 27,000 followers. Still only 450 of us follow them, and so it's really, the whole movement, is over 100,000 runners,
Wow.
so it's
That's
really about
awesome.
trying to figure out how to connect all of these runners in a better way, which is most likely Web3, kind of putting people together, doing squadcasts and different talks, especially about mental, get your mind right, some mental health stuff, because runners are crazy, and when we get injured, we go crazier. You know what I mean? Like we really go crazy. So
Oh, okay, yeah, because you start geeking because you can't get out there and run, right?
yeah, they're yeah. I mean, I was injured.
That's one way of putting it.
Painful enough to get to do what you love. So, and then we just hurt ourselves because we think we're professional athletes when we're not. And even professional athletes get hurt, but we think we can go out and do the same thing, which we can't. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on that way, where like, get your mind right and and your physical. If I want to run marathons when I'm 80, so I can't really hurt myself. I don't run 5 days a week because I feel like that would, too much wear and tear. I only run
On
one
that
to three.
concrete, oh my word, yeah. But hey, there, doesn't New York still have their, was it 90 and up and 100 and up marathons?
What do you mean? 90
But
up?
for 90-year-olds and
Oh,
100-year-olds and up.
I don't know. I haven't hung out with those crews yet. But
Hey, you might want to bring them on. They might teach us. I know they have. I know they just showed the 90-year-old and up marathon because I'm like, whew,
wow.
whew, God bless you. That was. I just saw that about 2-3 years ago, so I'm pretty sure it's still going.
Oh
I
wow.
mean,
No, I
and
believe it.
they look good. Check into it. Check into it. But tell us this. I know you mentioned Nike early on, and so is there how, because this stuff that you're talking about, reaching out and communication and all that, some of these things cost. Where are you getting your funding from?
Well, Nike uh supports our movement, right? And then, so like Nike, I've been working with Nike since 2004, um, and they actually came up with some of the culture ideas about like, okay, let's run through the neighborhood and let's bring back the smell of the bakery in Little Italy, and
Wow. Oh yeah.
so,
Oh yeah.
so that was my friend Gerardo Carucci who was really passionate about culture, and he was a soccer guy, a football guy, and then when he started doing running, and he met me, and it was like, let's do this, let's do that, let's learn, let's teach. So that came from I did it organically, right? Because when we used to bike together, the Bridge Rollers, it was like, okay, there's a taco spot in the back of this record store on Bedford Street, and then frozen margaritas to go. We'll meet at the frozen margarita spot on Ludlow, and it was really about like, and then, there's this graffiti thing. With biking, it's easier because it's, you don't running. It's harder. You can only eat and run if you're running like a 50K or 50 miles or 100 miles. Don't generally eat during a marathon.
Right. Right.
But with biking, it was always about food and exploring and learning, and there was always somebody else that was
Mm.
like, "Oh, check this out." You know what I mean? So it's really about the exploration for us, and Nike saw that was cool, and they supported us, and now they support uh, 4 or 5 other run crews in the Bronx and Brooklyn, and fast people, slow people, beginning people. And then, other companies saw what was going on, and Under Armour got involved, and they supported a group of
Wow.
runners and a crew in DC, and then the District Collective, and then Adidas was involved, and they support other run crews, Girls Run NYC, and Hoka is out now and on, and there's the Cliff Bar, and more ends, different products. So we get corporate support, not to the fullest like we should, but that's because we're still kind of keeping this thing to ourselves,
Gotcha.
in a way that we're not like, we're not doing it for everybody. We're doing it for the non-running runners, and friends and fam, and it's about recruiting and getting new people. But we're not fully blown. We could be, maybe we should be. I feel like we start doing races with 10,000 people, even if it's only 1,000 of us, the cool runners. The other 9,000 people get to experience what we do
Right.
on a
Right.
regular. So yeah, it's really about still growing, and and I think what we do, I say, is bigger than brands. So even though Nike was the first company to kind of support the movement in 2004, uh, that helps other, kind of like Wu-Tang when they went on different record labels.
Right.
Now all the other running companies are like, oh, we want to do this, we want to help, and I'm cool working with Nike because I was already a Nike head, so it's easy for me. Um, but other groups are coming on, and we unite with those other groups, and we run together. We do run for Chinatown, where we get the Asian community together, and support local businesses, and learn about the history of New York, and different groups. We all kind of, it's like hip hop came from gangs, and the gangs became crews, and the crews would battle each other, right?
Right.
So gangs to beat each other up, crews would battle each other.
Right.
Then graffiti crews came along, which there was beef. You might get robbed, this or that, right? The bad things happen with graffiti, but
Yeah.
the graffiti crew, not the graffiti gang, became something where, like, oh, well, I know those guys, and they put me down in their crew. So now, when I'm uptown, I'm going to throw up CAC. When I'm in Brooklyn, I'm going to put up BYI. And when I'm in, Tribeca, I'm going to put up AOK, because this is where those crews live.
Right.
And unlike the gangs, where it's like, if you're wearing your cut sleeves, your vest, we're gonna rob your jacket from you and hang it on the fire escape with the other gang jackets of people that try to walk through our
Right.
turf,
Right.
and we make them take their jackets off. So now it's like, you want as many shirts, from as many dry fit run shirts from different crews that you can collect, right? Because
Yeah.
you want, like, oh yeah, I'm down with the crew in Amsterdam, and oh, how do I get that shirt, and how do I get this, and how do I, like, so it's kind of like you want to promote as many different, groups, crews as possible. So it's kind of cool. It's
Right.
like, it's not even really a competition, right? Like, there's some people like Enbro from Copenhagen, where it's like everybody in the crew, including women, are like sub 3 marathons, they're like just super fast, something in the
Truly.
water, really crazy. Um, but we're not trying to compete with them. You know what I mean? They're, so they're like, but you maybe compete with them drinking, maybe, they can't smoke they can't smoke weed like me. They might drink more and it might be faster, but anywho, like, it's really about, using these crews that are good at what they do for inspiration. So it's kind of like, um, I don't know. I feel like it's always growing. Like, it's, we get worried, like, not the same. Look, it's been 19 years. It's not the same people that were running on frozen margaritas with me. They're not around now, and I'm sure they regret it, because I'm, running from time. I'm staying healthy. I'm doing cool things, and they could have been and should have been. They
Yeah,
might
but
not
think
be.
about it. You had 19 years ago, you have people that weren't even born that are going to be joining you probably for your 20, right? For the 20th
Yeah.
anniversary. I mean, that's an ongoing, that's like Joe's Pizza on 11th and 6th closing down. Well, I think we've served all the people. No, I mean, I know they're
Right.
closed now, but look at how
Ray,
long they
Ray,
were
Ray,
there.
Ray Pizza, not Joe's Pizza. Ray's Pizza.
Ray's. I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Right. And I should know that because I went to 41. But yeah, Ray's
Yeah.
Pizza. That I hate to hear that it was gone. But you know, It's
There's
I think you have a
probably
long ways to go.
too much cheese on those slices, anyways. It's probably a good thing.
Hey, look, I appreciate it.
It was the deal.
A dollar got me a slice, a drink, and an icy. Stop playing.
Right. That was actually pork and knife pizza at Ray's. That was a lot of cheese. But yeah, it's funny because
Yeah.
the original Ray's pizza, which was known as Ray's, was on Prince Street, and they just closed down. But it was the only one that just said Ray's. And then all the other ones said famous Ray's, original Ray's. But
Right.
the Ray's that we grew up with downtown was next to PS 41. Like that was our
That's
Ray's,
it.
that was our Blimpies, that was like
Yeah.
that's what we that was like the downtown staple.
Oh
But
wow,
yeah.
Blimpies. Oh, we won't go there. Okay, we got to wrap this up because I'll sit. Whew, I haven't been back to New York since my son graduated college up there in 2011. So
Wow.
since we're dating the episode, 11 years, and it's but my mom is like my connection. We talk on the phone every week, and even she was saying that it's not the original, mom and pop shops, and it's like the franchises are moving in, and I'm like, oh well, hey, I might as well stay here in Atlanta, but it's that's all right. So now tell
There is
us.
problems with that. Like that's part of what about like I do these True Yorker interviews, um, where I interview people that grew up in New York. What hospital were you born in? What nursery school? This and that, and we ask the question like, what do you miss and stuff like that. But I think one of the things, the consensus on most of everybody is they miss like the butcher, the baker, the this, like
Yes, yes.
go
I
to the
just heard
cheese store.
Balducci's is closed. How do you close
Yeah,
Balducci's?
yeah, that turned into like a Citarella a few years ago, but yes, exactly. Like, so a lot of those, like Zito's Bakery we talk about, where we used
Oh
to get
man.
so those things are gone. So that's sad. But then, what we do is we find new spots and try to keep them open, and we find old spots. Like I still go to the Corner Bistro on the Bon Bonniere, my favorite greasy spoon on 8th Avenue and 12th and Jane, the old hood,
Oh
and I
wow.
support them as I can because if they're still there after all these years,
Yes.
Alfaro closed down. That was my favorite spot on. My parents went there. My dad went there on Horatio Street, Alfaro. So things like that, and like when my runners come to New York, I take them to Peter Luger's. I take them to Alfaro. I take them to all these spots. They're like, this is it. This is old school. This is,
Right, right.
I try to preserve that, but we do lose it on the daily. It's very sad how some of the old establishments.
St. Vincent's, where I had my son in '89.
Right.
Gone. I mean, a whole hospital gone.
But
Greenwich
now
House.
I think they turned it into yeah. I think they changed. St. Vincent's became a new hospital part of it. The other building is gone where Jerry Dean used to stay when we used to visit him there. But that one building is gone. But yeah, I mean things are hopefully things are changing for the better. I mean I've never had a dollar slice of pizza since the 80s.
I don't think you
But
ever will. They was starting at $4.
well, I'm down with it. I don't support the 99-cent slices. I can't. There's too much
Oh
good
no.
food in New York for me to to slack and just eat. Like my thing now, which is funny, is because like I'm not really a consumer. Like all my clothing is from Nike, or my hats are 20 years old and stuff like that. So to be a part of society, to be like to contribute, what I do is I buy these freaking used to be $6 coffees. Now I think they're like $8 coffees because I leave a tip. But that's my contribution, right? Like I buy this $6 oat mocha, and and that money goes into the neighborhood. And I do that every day, and because I'm not buying sneakers and I'm not buying jewelry and I'm not buying anything,
Right.
but I'm like,
What? You're not supporting Delancey? Stop. Stop
Delancey,
playing.
totally. I'm on Delancey every day. I'm actually on Delancey Street right now, to tell you the truth. Got
Oh
the bridge.
really?
I got the Williamsburg Bridge right outside of that window. is the bridge. So,
Oh, that's
yeah.
all the traffic that we're hearing. I know I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
yeah.
I don't know if the listeners are hearing, but okay. But that's good. That's that great authentic, New York, because, I grew up, not far from Chelsea, from the Hudson River. And, so, the boats coming by and we were not far from the West Side Highway. So it was, that cool, because, you don't have central AC. So you open your windows and it's that breeze and that sound, and with no building, we're on the top floor, so no building blocking. You hear all that, and it's so I'm listening. I'm just like nostalgia, just
Yeah,
I
that was
miss
just a
those
drink.
days.
So wait, you haven't even seen the High Line?
No, I heard about it, but you're talking about along the Chelsea?
Yeah, what we used to call the bridge, but the train tracks that became
No.
like the really, yeah, you haven't seen. You got to come back to New York. There's a lot going on here.
Well,
Like
my
around,
mom, I told my mom yesterday, and I might have stuck my foot in my mouth, that I'm going to try to get up there this coming summer, 2023. And, so now that I've said it, I think I have to, I'd hate to have her all excited sitting in the seat of expectation. And I'm like, well, but one thing is, I don't fly. I don't like to fly. I know it's just too much aggravation. I don't have a problem with flight. I just don't like flying, especially if I can drive. So I think we
right,
might just be hitting
that's
that
not far.
75 to, I-81 and get up there that way. My brother and sister-in-law, shout out to Peter Paul and, Deneen Scott. They're like, road runners now. They're back and forth for a while because they have clients here in Atlanta. And for a
Right.
while they were down here like almost every month. And I'm like, I haven't seen you guys this much in the 20-something years I've been going. So, but yeah, I think it's, time for me to, return the
Well,
favor and
just
head on up
just in our neighborhood, we have this thing called the little island and the High Line, just for you to walk around. Just even if you stay in a 1 mile radius of our old hood, you're gonna bug out. Like there's a lot of new stuff over there, and a lot of it is for the better. I can't, gentrification isn't all bad,
there. Right.
especially in communities where there was food deserts. It's
Right.
bad that it prices a lot of people out, but
Yeah.
it also brings better schools and better things. So it's kind of like it's a mixed bag. I think over gentrification is bad, but the right amount of youth
A good
and
mix.
yeah, a good mix, which is hard. Like when after
Somebody's going to be mad. That's all it
when
boils down to.
when COVID happened and the moving trucks were on the corners and people were leaving, most of
Mm.
us were happy. Get out of it, beat it, good riddance. People were renting trucks, collecting furniture from everybody that left New York. There were, stuff, nice furniture on the corner. So I wasn't mad at that. But New York is actually popping. It's
I
good.
hope they were
Uh,
clean.
yeah, I mean, the streets were crazy during COVID. It was crazy. Like it was the ghost town, like which no, listen, Thanksgiving was a ghost town. I appreciate it. Labor Days, like I like when the city is dead. But business is great. There's people are out in the streets. Like Delancey is popping. Like there's mad bars in the Lower East Side, Avenue C, Avenue D, crazy places where you couldn't have walked 20, 30 years ago.
God, man.
NYC
Yeah,
students and
yeah,
stuff like that. So that's a good thing. I think
yeah.
like people try to act like streets aren't safe, and there's no, nobody's getting robbed for their sneakers anymore. Nobody's pulling out your bamboo earrings from your ear. Nobody's chain snatching and I mean there is crime, but you can't compare it to our day when you saw people and you had to walk on the other side of the street.
Well, wait a minute. Let me pause you there because I literally just heard it. I don't watch news, so trust me. I'm not like, oh, but the news says no. But this report did like throw me back. Like what? This lady is on the platform waiting for a train. I don't know which train, but she's on the platform waiting for a train. Not only did she get robbed for her purse, she got robbed for her shoes. I was like, yo, what in the world? What happened? What happened? And then Eric, I always forget his last name, your new
Eric,
mayor.
yeah,
He was sharing the stats, but apparently I didn't know it's like the highest crime rate in like 16 years. And he said, but hey, gun violence is down, felony assaults are down and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, It's just up and down, up and down. But yeah, you're right. Nobody's getting. I know one right before I left there, I got gun stuck in my face, trying to rob me. Really, on my block? You're kidding me, right? That didn't happen. But
Well, the sad thing is there's a lot of mental illness in the streets.
yes,
It's a lot like well, the city's not really taking care of that for different reasons. But a lot of the crazy people in the street aren't violent, and but a handful are, and they kind of ruin it for most people. But yeah, I mean the city has always been dangerous, but it's a lot of fun, and I guess there was always a mix of danger and fun, and
right.
it's not safe. You can't walk around and think it's sweet. You know what I mean? Like people are snatching, they'll snatch your phone from you. It might not be as many purse snatchings and stuff like that, but there's hungry people out there. There's,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
school break, like, there's a reason why there's crime and it's, it's, and it probably goes back to education and stuff like that, how the system is set up. But in general, New York is the so like those
I,
things like New York and
yeah,
enjoy.
yeah. I'm a New Yorker to heart, still and all. I
New
walk
York.
2.5 to 3 miles every day, 7 days a week. But I will say this: I've been in Atlanta since '93. Just celebrated 29 years here, and so I'm pre-Olympics, along with a lot. Now I came down here from Virginia. I skipped New York, New Jersey, Virginia, Atlanta. But a lot of New Yorkers. I mean, there were people coming from New York, don't have licenses, opening, how we do in New York. We create things. We say, oh, y'all don't have one of those? Oh, okay, let me start one. I mean, the most creative ideas, like, oh, I'm back. And now, when you have 1 million people, not just from New York, but from all over, 1 million people each year moving into an area. For one, yes, we are very overpopulated. Yes, we are very expensive. But we do have areas that resemble New York, to where if I wanted to go into a city, like a New York City environment, atmosphere, vibe, culture, head down to Atlanta. Now I don't. I'm in the suburbs for a reason. Been here since I got here. But yeah, if you haven't been to Atlanta, you need to come visit us. I mean, when Peter comes down here, he brings some clients, and, he's telling them about the potential for their products and stuff down here. And they're like, oh, well, let me, tag along with you. And now they're like, yo, what's it going to take? What's the housing cost? I mean, everybody wants to move. But look, I came to visit my family May of '93. I moved down November '93. So I know it's one of those, you come, you love it. And you can't, yeah, we have franchises, IHOP and, Red Lobster and Olive Garden, that kind of stuff. But you can find those Greek restaurants to get a good falafel. You see what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
can find an Orange Julius, which is a franchise now anyway. But all that to say, when I talk to my mom about what New York is now missing and losing, and I look at what Atlanta is gaining, it's like, why would I make that a 900-mile trip? And I can go right down here 20 minutes away and get it for the same price, Oh, okay, my family's up there. So I said, okay,
Yeah.
I'll
You
compromise.
need some concrete in your life. Come back and
Ah.
grab the stuff.
Okay. We're gonna wrap this up because, like I said, I know I'll talk to you forever. It's been forever since we talked, and we're not gonna get everything, especially not catching up in an hour. So now, top it off with, how can people find you and everything that you have going on? Your contact information, websites, email address, phone number,
Well,
whatever you have.
it's mostly Instagram is how you follow us. That's the kind of we're kind of in between sites. We're working on this new Web3 thing and trying to get people together in one place. But it's Bridge Runners on Instagram. Or I think you can put in NYC Bridge Runners, and it's also True Yorkers on Instagram, but also TrueYorkers.NYC. So I remember my boy Dagan, the dancer. Remember Dagan? That's my partner with True Yorkers.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So those two things are there. You know, there's a couple of websites, but mostly Instagram to keep people like up on it. But you know, hopefully, with the whole anniversary and big things, we'll have some bigger places for people to meet and chat and listen. You know, and have like cool talks. There's a lot of much cooler, healthier people in my movement than myself that we should all listen to. And so I'm trying to kind of create that space. So that'll be happening soon, but definitely NYC Bridge Runners and True Yorkers on Instagram. My personal is Mike Saes, Saes. Not that cool though, just a couple of graffiti photos on there. Me bragging about my kids or something, but cool.
I can't count how many times I've sat down on a train seat with either Saes or my brother Kid Fresh tagged on it, and I'm like, okay, keep the city, carrying us from one borough to the other with these names and seats and yeah. And then they mess you up and they put those trains where the what was it? The graffiti wouldn't stay on there, like disappear.
Yeah, graffiti proof. Yeah. Eventually,
well,
the trains are gonna spray us back. But yeah, we're graffiti now.
Yeah.
Like it's funny because when you look at our country, we have a couple of things: jazz,
yes,
and graffiti. Even though graffiti kind of started in Philadelphia, it kind of got its mainstay in New York, and now it's all around the world, and it's commercial art, and it's the lobby of the Freedom Tower is done by a graffiti artist from Miami, my boy Jose Parla Ease. So like now, like everybody remembered how they were talking about hip hop and talking about graffiti, and now you look at the NFL and every commercial, it's all that they've taken part in what came from the streets, and it's mainstream for better or worse, or both. But it's cool.
Yeah, you can't go a day without seeing a commercial with some kind of hip hop, old school too. They're not like making up new stuff. It's old school. It's like, okay, I remember, Bobby had like, oh yeah, okay.
So that's cool. I'm happy about that. And this is our lifetime, right? We were there, from beepers to Skype. We're here. we made it.
We made it. Hey, I'm only halfway. I don't know about you, but I'm only halfway there. And because we got a lot of things going on, and we're gonna connect though. We're definitely gonna connect. I'm gonna talk to you after I hang this up. But I appreciate everything that you're doing, everything that you shared with us, and I think our listeners really, this is definitely a big twist from what we normally talk about on here. But like I said, anything that is community oriented, like I said, it's the Community Nonprofit Network podcast, but you don't have to be a nonprofit, got my air quotes going, folks, to add value to us. So with that, folks, we're getting out of here. If you'd like to advertise with us, visit our website, thecnnpodcast.com. If you'd like to be a future guest, please jump on the website, click that Be a Guest tab. And until next time, fam, as always, be awesome and be blessed.